Okay, very good morning to everyone. Welcome to Open University Research Sessions 2021, the first technical session on engineering and technology. We have five presentations lined up for this particular technical session. And let me invite Professor N.S. Senanayak, a professor in mechanical engineering at the Open University of Sri Lanka, to chair this particular session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Suvinda. Good morning to everyone again, and welcome to the session 3 of ours 2021. This is session number 4, Engineering and Technology. Now we have 5 presentations scheduled in this session. Shall we go to the first one? First session is paper ID 121, CNC portable wood carving machine. Authors are HACS Dayavansa and RJ Vimalasiri. The presenter is HACS Dayavansa. Or to Mr. Dayavansa.
Hello everyone, I am Chanuk Sadeep from Faculty of Mechanical Engineering, the Open University of Sri Lanka. I am going to present my work study, name is the Portable CNC Wood Carving Machine. This is supervised by the Dr. Ruminda Vimalasiri. Introduction. This is a computer numerical control portable wood carving machine. After the Industrial Revolution, built many kind of the numerical control machines. Most of them require the workpiece which is carved in the horizontal plane to be fixed to the machine horizontally. They do not support carving on a vertical surface. Also, the size of the CNC machine is defined by the size of the whole workpiece, not by the size of the carving. Also, they cannot be used to perform a carving on a already assembled vertical and horizontal surfaces such as a doors, table, doors of almaris or walls. The only way is to dismantle the component, fix the machine carve, and reassemble it. In this study, a CNC carving machine was designed and developed to perform vertical cutting as well. The developed machine could be fixed to the vertical surface which need to be carved to perform the cut without dismantle the member. Here shows the objectives of my work study. First one is study the wood carving machine requirement, available tools and techniques for the CNC wood carving. Second one is design the portable fixed surface wood carving machine. Third one is develop to vertical surface wood carving capability. This was my conceptual design. There shows how to combine the parts together. Using this method, allow to access ground surface and carve on ground surfaces. After that, this is the completed CNC machine design, and after the development, there shows the 3-axis and control unit and the wiring diagram. Using this 3-axis, we can carve the 3-dimensional carving. This is the Z-axis with spindle motor mounting. There shows how to spindle motor mount on the Z-axis. This is the control unit of the CNC machine. There shows the switches and indicators. They have power availability indicator, machine start mode indicator, machine motor running indicator, and the important thing is emergency stop button. The electrical structure of my CNC machine, they show how to connect each component each other, like stepper motors and stepper motor drivers and control board. The important thing is safety is first. So there Attach the limit switches and e-stop button. Here shows the control software of the machine. This control software is Match3 CNC controller. It is used with many type of CNC machine in the industry. They have lot of option for machine control. This software should install in the computer and parallel cable used to data transfer between computer and machine. This is a paid software. This is the calculated power data from the so many calculation. Here shows the important parameters depend on the machine. I was selected the suitable component matched with this calculated data like the spindle motor speed and power likewise. After that, this is how to analyze machine using the SolidWorks software. You can see the green color points, which is the clamping location, and applied to calculate the to the tool bit. Then calculate deformation and rigidity of the machine. Total weight direct to the. This is the analyzed data using the SolidWorks analysis. Using this table, we can get some idea about the maximum deformation and failure about the machine structure. Each part's calculated strength are less than yield strength, so this structure is safe. Here shows the clamping forces analysis. Because of a machine is portable, machine should be fixed with the carving surface. Here shows analysis clamping forces for horizontal and vertical carving. Example, there shows the x-axis direction forces is 7.11 Newton, y-axis direction forces is 12.6 Newton, z-axis is 52.9 Newton. It's on depend on the horizontal carving, and they also show the vertical carving forces. That here discuss the occurred some problem because of vibration and noise. Here show how to minimize the vibration and noise. Example, align all component, used vibration absorb couplers between the motors and shaft, or the ball screw, and use the lubricant for reduce the friction, and so here shows the overall machine specification. Machine size, example, 650 millimeters length, 450 millimeters width, and the 450 millimeters height. But the carving area is 500 millimeters length and 350 millimeters width and 50 millimeters height. This total machine weight is the 27 kilogram and operating voltage 230 volt, and the power consumption is 800 watts with the spindle motor, and the rating current is 3.4 ampere. They can use to use 3 to 6 millimeter tool bit, and the resolution is 0.015 millimeters. It shows the how to clamp machine with the any surface. They have, for example, first one is the horizontal surface like a table. Second one is vertical surfaces like door. Third one also like a door. Fourth one is like a door. But fourth one have a specialty. They have some basement like table or someone. This machine can be placed on the table. This is the carving process. There shows the how to carving on horizontal surface, and here shows the how to carve on the vertical surfaces like bed or like door surfaces. This is the completed carved sample. Left one is the bed, and the right one is the cupboard. There shows the some gift item made by the shows the three-dimensional carving from the machine. It's also done by the CNC machine. The left one is the CNC engraving. It's not a three-dimensional carving. That's all. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Dayavan, sir. Now it's open for
Thank
any
you, sir.
questions to the audience. Any question? I have one question. In that case, Mr. Dayavan, sir, have you estimated the cost of the machine?
Yes, sir. Estimated cost is 90,000 for the all equipment without the cost of workman. The total cost may be 120,000.
Yeah, so I think this is meant for small scale industry. Then cost factor is important. As you said, it's around 100,000. I think it's a good machine. Have you tested this machine somewhere with some people?
No, sir, not yet.
Okay. Are there any questions from the audience?
I have one question, Chanukka.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now, you mentioned that this is going to be a three-dimensional one. Now, in a three-dimensional type of carving, now, do you have a kind of a blade or a kind of a blade at the end to do the carving, right? So there is kind of a blade which does the carving.
No, sir, not a blade. It's a tool bit, like
Yes.
end mill, ball nose for end mill.
So can it penetrate into the board, the wood? I mean, when you want to make it three-dimensional, suppose that on the surface, if the area is smaller, and can this a bit penetrate into the surface so that on the surface the area is smaller than when you move in the same direction, like a knob type of thing. So let's say you have a kind of a knob type of thing on the surface, and then that means the area on the surface is smaller than the area which is coming out.
I don't understand this meanings.
Okay, that's fine.
Are there any questions? Any more? Okay, then thank you very much, Dayavan sir. We'll move to the next presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Next presentation, ID number 131. Title of the paper is Implication of a Spatial Multi-Criteria Evolution Model to Improve the Existing Landslide Hazard Zones with special reference to Ratnapura District, Sri Lanka. Authors are ENC Pereira, AMCT Gunaratna, SBD Samarasinghe, presented by ENC Pereira.
We are conducting a research to develop a landslide risk index for Sri Lanka. As a part of this study, we introduce a new method to improve the existing landslide hazard zonation in Sri Lanka. This study was conducted in Ratnapura district. you know that the landslide occurrences are showing upward trend in Sri Lanka from 1974 to 2016. And landslide hazard zonation is very essential for the minimize the landslide risk in Sri Lanka. So landslide hazard zonation is the classification of land surface into homogeneous classes based on probability of occurrence of landslide. We can do this with the spatial multi-criteria evaluation. The spatial multi-criteria, we can evaluate different criteria and their contribution to landslide hazards. We conducted this study in Ratnapura district because of the high density of landslide in Ratnapura district. And main objective of this study is consider new factors to do landslide hazard zonation, while we expected to improve the existing landslide hazard zonation map in Sri Lanka. The existing hazard zonation map is limited to static factors, but in this study, we introduced dynamic factors such as land use and land use change for determine the landslide hazard. For that, we used landslide satellite data from 2000 to 2020 as our primary data. Then we obtain our secondary data from survey department and land use and policy planning department. So as the first step of this study, we prepared a database of landslide conditioning factors. We used 7 landslide conditioning factors in this study, including land use and land use change. For this study, first, we subdivided all landslide conditioning factors are subdivided into 4 classes and assigned 1 to 4 rates based on the field experience as well as expert knowledge. Then we reclassified the considering conditioning maps, and these maps, all of these maps will be considered as conditioning factor maps symbolized in Fi. Then we need to identify which factors are more contribute to landslide hazard of this district. Therefore, we conducted pairwise comparison test using analytical hierarchy process for evaluate the weight of each of these factors to determine the level of hazard in Ratnapura district. But we need to check the consistency of assigned weights. Therefore, we check the consistency of assigned weights using consistency ratio test. Finally, we got the landslide hazard zonation map by using last equation, summation of I is equal to 1 to 7 Wi into Fi. Here you can see one of our intermediate results, the pairwise comparison matrix and calculated weight. The total value, the summation of the calculated weight is equal to 1, and consistency ratio is obtained as 0.062. It is less than 0.1. Hence, we can conclude that obtained weights are consistent. Therefore, we can use this weight to calculate the hazard zonation. This is the outcome map. According to the landslide hazard zonation map prepared by NBRO, an area 257 square kilometers was demarcated as landslide area to be expected. But in this study, we shown that area is increased to 327 square kilometers, showing 27% expansion. However, the extent of safe area does not change significantly in improved landslide hazard zonation map. In this map, you can see the upper right-hand corner, you can see the map prepared by the NBRO. This is the updated map introducing land use and land use change. In contrast, spatial distribution of landslide not like to occur area was contracted by 47%, and this contracted area was transformed to modest level of landslide area. Then we saw that 48% of the modest level of landslide hazard region merged to high hazard zone. Totally 1,310 square kilometers, that is 40% of the Ratnapura district, are considered as landslide prone area. We see that this results in the increasing of the landslide occurrence in Ratnapura district. Therefore, under this observation, we can conclude that this model is shown 80% of accuracy to determine the landslide occurrence in Ratnapura district. Then we see that the existing landslide hazard maps should be improved, considering the dynamic landslide causative factor at least once a year. It is recommended to establish an automated mechanism to update the landslide hazard zonation digital maps using artificial intelligence. Thank you very much. Actually, this research was supported by the Acceleration Higher Education Expansion and Development Operation of the Ministry of Higher Education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pereira. Now it's open for questions. Any question from the audience?
I have one question from Dr. Pereira.
Yeah.
Dr. Pereira, have you considered or have you obtained any data about the groundwater levels?
Actually not, sir. Actually not. We have to consider that also, but the thing is the problem with the availability of the ground data, groundwater data. Definitely, we can consider that fact as well in future modification of this model.
Yeah, the reason is now that is going to be one of the critical factors possibly when you have suppose that you have high recharge from the precipitation, and then there would be high variability in the groundwater levels.
Exactly.
Right, during the rainfall, and then that can be a very critical factor in the landslides. Sure. So it's better if you can incorporate that one, because it is one of the critical factors.
Sure, definitely. Definitely, we will consider that fact as well.
So in that case, how do you think about now? You have developed your model and then you have verified that one with some of the data collected.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So then there could be now, if you try to incorporate that one, if you incorporate groundwater levels also into your equation, then how do you in the next step, how do you verify your results? Because now you are making certain conclusions based on certain factors you have considered. Yeah. And then this would be a new factor that you have to consider.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Actually, so this is actually our study. The entire study will be conducted for Sabaragamuwa province. As a part of this study, we conducted the research for the Ratnapura district. But definitely, when we consider about the Karagal and all province, we can consider the groundwater level as
well. Okay, right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Any more questions from the audience?
Yeah, one more question. Can you hear me, Professor Nayaka?
Yes, we can. Eric, go ahead.
Okay, one small question that might be related to the question asked by Dr. Rana Singha. So can you apply the developed model for any other districts or any other provinces?
Yeah, actually we can. We can do it.
That means the considered factors are similar in all the provinces or the districts.
Yeah.
That was my question.
Yeah, definitely, sir. This is very important. So actually, we can apply this for the 40 landslide-prone district in Sri Lanka.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Pereira, what type of data you input to the model? I think Dr. Suminda mentioned about the groundnot. Other than that, groundnot is not probably you have not considered it, but
yes,
other parameters.
Other than that, we have used 7 data. One factor is land use and land use change. We got that data from satellite data, Landsat data, and Landsat. In addition to that, we use the geological data, geological soil data, and proximity to roads, proximity to river streams, like that.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's very good project, and if there are not any more questions, we can go to the next one. Okay, then. Thank you very much, Mr. Pereira and your team.
Thank you very much, sir.
Doing good work.
Thank you.
Next presentation, ID number 159, analysis of flood frequency at lower reach of Kalanni River in Sri Lanka. Authors are AMUB Arampola, WGHPK Munasinghe, PMSS Kumari. Today the paper is presented by PMSS Kumari. Over to Kumari.
Hello everyone, I am Shamali Kumari from Department of Basic Sciences at OUSL. Our project was analysis of flood frequency at lower reach of Kalanni River in Sri Lanka. And this project has been done with the collaboration of 3 persons from 3 organizations, including me. And I hope to continue the presentation through these main topics: introduction, methodology, results and discussion, conclusions, and references. Okay then, first I'll introduce the background of the study. Before that, let's see what is called flooding and flood frequency analysis. Overflowing of water onto lands or submerging lands that are usually dry is called as the flooding. In simple terms, it can be defined as a large quantity of water flowing from a water body to a dry area due to environmental or human effects. And the flood frequency analysis means predicting the flow values corresponding to specific return periods. Flooding is one of the major disasters that people all over the world have to face. In Sri Lanka also, flooding has been a big issue. Therefore, different flood risk management programs have been started by hydrologists in Sri Lanka to overcome or to reduce effect due to flooding. The recent flood in 2016 is the most severe hydrological calamity faced by the people near the Kalanni River after the main flood event in 1989. This study was carried out to obtain flood predictions such as estimating the flood magnitude and return period to reduce the impact of the flooding at the lower reach of Kalanni River in Sri Lanka. In this study, the lower reach of Kalanni River was selected as the study area. It forms down by covering the Colombo district and the Gampaha district. This figure shows the lower reach of Kalanni River and the Hangwala Gauge Station. From the Hangwala Gauge Station, daily discharge data in QMEX was collected over from the year 1987 to year 2017. And the QMEX means a cubic meter per second. It is a unit of rate of flow of water. After collecting the data, annual peak discharge data
Is Kumari is there?
Yes, sir.
Are there any questions from the audience with that presentation? Kumari, can you hear us?
Professor Nayaka, let me share the presentation from my end.
Okay.
From the flow data. After collecting the data, annual peak went to year 2017. And the Qmix mean a cubic meter per second. It is a unit of rate of flow of water. After collecting the data, annual peak discharge data of each year was observed and it is used for the analysis. Now let's see what are the statistical methods that have been used for obtaining the results. According to the literature, the annual peak method was utilized to analyze flood frequency in this study. As the first step, descriptive statistics such as mean, maximum, minimum were found from the flow data. Then 5 different distributions, Gamble, Fletcher, Weibull, log normal and log Pearson were applied for parameter estimation. From the goodness of fit test, most appropriate distribution that follows the annual peak discharge data was identified. After that, the best chosen distribution was used to estimate the flood magnitude and the return period. Further, the flood frequency curve is also used to find the relationship between discharge values and the return period graphically. From this slide, I will explain what are the results obtained from the study. Table 1 shows the descriptive statistical results obtained from annual peak discharge data. Here, the mean annual peak discharge is 961.07 Qmex and it falls within the 95% confidence limit. Maximum and minimum are 1604.19 Qmex and 531.40 Qmex respectively. Further, from the Shapiro-Wilk test, it was confirmed that the data are normally distributed at 5% significance level. According to this graphical representation of annual peak discharge, the maximum discharge value is shown in the year 2016. And the second maximum discharge value is shown in the year 1989. This table 2 shows the mean values resulted from all 5 distributions. According to the table, Gamble distribution provides the mean as 961.07. It is same as the mean value of actual data distribution which I have discussed earlier. And other 4 models also show a similar approximation mean value to the actual data distribution. Table 3 shows the probability density function and the QQ plots obtained from the all 5 distributions. Here, the curve of the Gamble distribution is skewed to the left and the data points are spread around the straight line without much deviating. Then we can say data follows the distributions accordingly. Data points in QQ plots of other distributions are also follow the similar behavior. data points are spread around the straight line without much deviating. Goodness of fit test for 5 statistical distribution techniques applied in this study are evaluated using Kolmogorov-Smirnov, Anderson-Darling, and chi-square test at a 5% significance level. The result shows that the data follows all 5 distributions as statistical values obtained from distributions are less than to respective critical values at 5% significance level. Then, by considering the literatures and the results obtained from the goodness of fit test, distribution plots, and QQ plots, log Pearson 3 distribution is selected as the best distribution to fit the data. Table 5 shows the flood frequency calculations using log Pearson type 3 distribution, return period, and the flood magnitude. In red color row, it says that after 100 years, it will exceed the maximum value of annual peak discharge shown in the year 2016. And further, in green color row, it shows that after 25 years, it will exceed the second maximum value of annual peak discharge of QMEX shown in the year 1989. In figure 2, flood frequency curve shows it graphically further. As the conclusions from the study, it is noted that the annual peak discharge data were normally distributed and the maximum value of discharge was observed in the year 2016. Further, annual peak discharge data follows all 5 distributions. By considering the literatures and the QQ plots and results obtained from the goodness of fit test, log Pearson 3 distribution is selected as the best distribution to fit the data. Then log Pearson 3 distribution was used for further predictions and the frequency curve was fitted for average peak discharge values using the log Pearson 3 distribution. According to the hydrological report on the Kalni River flood, the recent flood has been occurred in year 2016. From the analysis, it is revealed that after 100 years, it will exceed this maximum value of discharge showed in 2016. The frequency curve graphically shows that 100 years as the return period and approximate flood magnitude is 1,600 QMEX. Also, flood frequency analysis reveals that it reached the same amount of peak discharge in 1989 after 25 years. The rainfalls may cause flood, but there may be other reasons, such as most of the agricultural land and marshy areas in the past have been converted to residential areas, and sand mining, gem mining are being carried out. Therefore, the protections level of original schemes may be insufficient for the present condition. Then it can be concluded that the level of protections should be increased at least up to 50-year return periods, which comparable to the 1989 flood magnitude. These are the references that we followed in this study. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Now it's open for any clarification from Kumari.
Yeah, one small question from me. I am Eric Pereira. So according to your prediction, when will be the next flood in Kelaniya?
From the analysis, it is concluded that the return period, and also it will exceed the amount of magnitude of 2016. And from the analysis, it is further revealed that it reached the amount in it reached the after 100 years the amount of the 1989 flood magnitude. Then by considering the both conclusions and also by considering hydrological report, we conclude that we should do the flood risk management projects within 50 years, at least 50 years.
I did not understand properly the answer. So, can we expect flood during next 5 or 10 years in that area as per your calculation or prediction?
From
No, as I understood, in 1989 there was a big flood. Then again in 2016, a similar kind of flood was there as per your statistics. But I know that I am from that area. Even last year, the Biagama Kalani area was flooded. So in your study, that factor has not been considered. I think the flood taken place in the last year. That's why I asked, according to your study or the prediction, so when will be the next big flood? Can you tell that?
We cannot exactly say that time period, but it will depend on the other facts. Sometimes the marshy areas and in the sand mining, gem mining, those are some other factors that affect for the flood. Some land modifications that therefore it will depend on that other factors also.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
No question?
Senanaka, shall I ask a question? I'm Ruminder.
Yeah, Ruminder.
What is the accuracy of your predictions? Like, have you assessed?
Dr. Ruminder, your voice is not clear.
Have you assessed what is the accuracy of your system?
I don't think it is still can't hear.
Okay, sorry. Can you hear me, sir? Now.
Now it's all right.
Okay, what have you assessed the accuracy of the system? What sort of accuracy of the system, like predictions? Kumari?
Yes, sir. I applied the data for the model of the log Pearson type 3 model, and from that model I got the 65% accuracy.
65%, that is, that is it's bit of error, like it's containing a little bit of error of your predictions. That's why even Dr. Eric mentioned, like some of the factors you have omitted. That may be the reason. But try to find like more. Also the read you are getting the things, the results you are getting from the softwares. Have you like do you know whether they are giving the correct readings or correct results? Like you said, you have calculated the accuracy as 65. What would be the accuracy of the system, the software itself that you calculated the accuracy? Have you assessed? Do you have any idea of that?
No, sir. Actually, I use the SPSS software for the calculations.
Okay, SPSS. Okay.
Yes.
Think of the accuracy, because when you are predicting something like that, the accuracy of the results are much important. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. I'm finished. Thank you.
Any more question? Okay. Thank you very much, Kumari and her team. Shall we move to the next presentation? Next presentation, paper ID number 163. Title is Electronic Transaction Platforms and their support for small-scale transactions. Review, survey, and suggestions by Sukumar Krisanthan. I invite Mr. Krisanthan to give you a presentation.
Hello everyone, I am Krisanthan from Faculty of Engineering, University of Rona. My research is based on electronic transaction platform and their support for small-scale transaction. If I ask you, what is Internet? Most of you will say, Internet is a platform used to search things. But one of the important purposes of Internet is doing online transaction. Does it support small-scale transaction? You may understand this at the end of the presentation. Let's start. With the emergence of information technology, people are more focused on electronic transaction. Compared to traditional transaction platforms, electronic systems provide more flexibility with improved security. In this COVID-19 pandemic era, most people rely on electronic transaction platform. There are different types of electronic transaction platforms with their own advantages and disadvantages. For example, usage of debit card is more efficient than that of coupon. Usage of credit card is more reliable than that of Easy Cash. At the beginning, people used electronic transaction for medium to large scale, but currently people are more focused on small scale electronic transactions. This study is based on a review and a survey carried out to identify the feasibility of these transactions in the Sri Lankan context. Many studies have been conducted in recent times regarding electronic transaction systems. Some of them are shown in the slides. ULF, Miraj, Ahmad and Assad have conducted a study of online payment systems, their past development, present impact on the business sector, and the future consideration of electronic transaction system. Masu Adil, Islam Khan, Islam Mato, and Alan Verju have pointed out in their study that payment gateways still have some security concerns despite their growing popularity and large-scale use in business. Micropayment systems were not established by any international financial organization. Also, they were not integrated into the existing financial system or tools in terms of infrastructure. By Shang-Yo Lee. The establishment of a common standard for a variety of service providers and the improvement of compatibility with a large number of customers could facilitate proper adoption and expansion of these systems by Saxena, Vyas, Kumar, and Gupta. This movement will eventually compel more merchants to accept and integrate electronic transaction system into their business by Ramya, Shivashakti and Nandini. If I talk about the objective of this research, the objectives are to identify the feasibility of electronic transaction in Sri Lankan context, to identify the factors associated with small-scale electronic transaction and consumer perception on them. The methodology that I use to do this research is by reviewing research articles, internet sources, and conference papers. From that, I was able to evaluate different aspects like infrastructure, regulatory and legal issues, social and cultural challenges, and security of electronic transaction. This study involves a survey focusing on consumer perception of small-scale transactions. This was done through a questionnaire. The flexibility, ease of use, security, and overall satisfaction associated with small-scale transactions were evaluated from this survey. These are the results obtained from the survey. The average score for flexibility, satisfaction for charges, easiness, willingness, security, need of alternative method are shown in the slides. According to the calculated average scores, majority of the respondents believe that there should be adequate flexibility, simplicity, higher security, and fairness of charges in current systems. Willingness to adapt to these systems are somewhat less compared to other dimensions, and the majority of the respondents believe that there should be an alternative method for small-scale transaction in addition to existing transaction methods. Finally, the conclusion. There are many studies conducted on electronic transaction systems, but there is little to no research done about the support of these systems for small-scale transactions. The following approach can be suggested to simplify the small-scale transaction system. The suggested approach takes place between the website vendor and the customer while there is no bank as the direct mediator. When the customer buys from the website sends an auto-generated email to the vendor. Then the relevant amount is debited from the recharge balance of the customer and the vendor stores the information regarding the transaction. Then the initial transaction between the customer and the website ends. Since this is a small-scale transaction, the vendor does not credit the amount to the website account immediately. The relevant amount is credited to the website bank account after it reaches a certain threshold amount. The initiation of this method gives many advantages for customer. For instance, transaction can be performed faster. Students below 18 can use this for their educational purpose rather than using their parents' e-payment systems. And also, this can be used to make payments on unreliable websites. It is also important for telecommunication industry as it can achieve a considerable income because small amount are collected from large number of websites. Furthermore, it is advantage for website because number of customers increase as the transaction is done directly with the vendor. This is an added advantage for new website because this system will increase the user confidence in the website and the number of customers will increase as there is adequate security. These are some of the references I used. I think the support for small-scale transaction in existing system is clear. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Santan. Now session is open for any clarification from the presenter.
Yeah, Professor Seranayake, I have a small clarification. So, what is the meaning of small-scale transaction?
It's a transaction between 0 to 20 or 0 to 10 rupees, a small scale.
0 to
10 or 20, moreover, a small scale.
That means you have developed the system to facilitate that amount of money transactions, right?
Yeah.
Is it practicable in the current situation?
Yeah, the major reason for developing such a thing is because in internet we use we can buy something. For an example, we can buy an answer for such as when we want to buy an answer from website, we need to subscribe them for 3 or 4 months, so that if a person needs just an answer, subscription for such a long time is a disadvantageous for the customer. So having small scale transaction, that means 0 to 10.
Sorry for the disturbance. Can you define the term small scale transaction from how many to how many? The range?
0 to 10 rupees.
0 to 10 rupees.
Yeah.
So my question is whether that type of transaction existing in the present scenario.
No. We can do transaction via debit cards, but 0 to 10 rupees is not. We cannot
not possible with the existing.
Yeah.
You want to develop a system to facilitate that category.
Yeah.
Okay, understood. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any more question? Yeah, I have one question now. Now, is it possible to implement this scheme? I mean, among these small scale business point.
With the help of telecommunication industry, we can implement this.
Now, is something related to money transaction? Do you need some approval from the central bank?
Yeah, definitely. If we want to do something regarding money transaction, we need.
There might be certain guidelines. I mean, have you looked at those guidelines for introducing such a system?
No, I couldn't.
Okay. Any more question? If not, thank you very much, Mr. Shantan, for your presentation. Now we'll go to the last presentation in this session, number 4, ID number 174. Title is Hate Speech Detection on Sinhala Social Media Text Using LSTM and Fast Text. Authors are Suresh Pereira, Indika Pereira, and Supunmali Ahangama. Presented by Suresh Pereira. Over to Suresh Pereira.
A good day to all of you. I am Suresha Pereira, presenting the research of hate speech detection on Sinhala social media text using LSTM and fast text on behalf of the research team, Professor Indika Pereira and Dr. Supunmali Ahangama. First of all, I will give a brief introduction about this study followed by the context. Then I will explain the research problem, aim and objectives of the study. Thereafter, the literature review and the methodology. Next, I will discuss the results and finally end the presentation with the conclusion and recommendations. Human beings can express and share information on what they think. Others also have the freedom to agree or disagree or express their opinions in a peaceful way. Therefore, freedom of expression is essential to individuals' liberty. It is protected by Article 19 of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights under the Human Rights. Also, Article 10, Freedom of Expression of Human Rights Act 1998, Article 19 of the ICCPR and the Constitution of Sri Lanka. Therefore, as Sri Lankans, we are privileged with the freedom of expression. As you all can remember, we have faced the tragedy of Easter bomb attack. Not only that, there are several ethno-religious cases reported in Sri Lanka. The above cases shows that there is an increase of ethno-religious violence in recent years. Why? The violence has increased because of hate speech. The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights has identified that the hate speech has worsened the social and racial tensions. There is a massive increase with internet users. Internet usage has increased worldwide to 4.5 billion from the total population of 7.75 billion by the middle of 2020. The social media growth in 2019 to 2020 is led by Asia, approximately 16.98% with 6.4 million social media. Facebook is a social media platform used by Sri Lankans, and the total addressable Facebook audience now stands at 1.95 billion. This graph shows the usage of social media platforms among Sri Lankans, and it clearly shows that Facebook is dominated. The proliferation of social media platforms encourages people to connect socially online in a virtual landscape. The anonymity and mobility of those platforms create venues to express their ideas. However, this has resulted in exposure to highly undesirable phenomena of being exposed to hate content. We have identified that hate speech is a threat in social media platforms and need to combat it. So what is hate speech? There is no proper definition for that. However, the United Nations strategy defines it as this. However, the detection of hate content with the Sinhala language is difficult to social media owners as they do not have enough expertise as language interpreters and human resources to manually annotate hate content in a huge number of corpus. Therefore, my research problem is what are the most effective strategies could be used for identifying automatic hate speech detection in the Sri Lankan Facebook context. The aim is to develop a natural language processing tool to automatically detect hate content in Sinhala language on the social media platform Facebook. My objectives are to identify the current state-of-the-art hate speech detection techniques in social media, design an analytical framework with the identified techniques to identify the hate content online, implement a platform for the design framework for the automatic identification of hate speech, evaluate the performance of the platform using the existing methods in the field of text classification. I will highlight some of the important points in my literature review. Specific data sets for Sinhala as expected is scarce. Renuka Pumal Fernando annotated a corpus of 1,411 Twitter data in the sexism and racism. Sahan Jayasuriya have annotated 6,309 Facebook data set as hate or non-hate. The Facebook also provides the users with fast text built on Wikipedia corpus. However, the hate speech domain specific data is very scarce. Madhugudi uses simple feed-forward neural network with document term frequencies for Sinhala corpus. In his 2017 study, the analysis was based on Sinhala language bilingual dictionary of English and Sinhala. This research then mainly focused on statistical machine learning algorithms such as support vector machines and naive Bayes. In the study, Chaturanga worked with the data set of UCSE and experiment with deep learning techniques of LSTM and convolution neural network support vector machine models. The results were inferior to that of LSTM. From the literature, it is observed that annotated corpora or sentiment lexicons are publicly available for Sinhala is very rare. Sinhala is a morphologically rich, low-resource language which is very difficult to text analysis. Study shows that the use of novel deep learning techniques can improve the hate speech detection where we can apply this for the Sinhala language text. This is the methodology. We have collected Facebook posts in Sinhala and annotated using crowdsourcing platform and cleaned them to remove invalid values and fill with missing values. Then the data set is splitted for training and testing. Then we have used deep learning models to automatic hate speech detection using fast text and long short-term memory for the classification of text to hate and non-hate. Then we evaluated the model and used it to predict fresh corpus. For the study, we have used fast text word embedding for the feature extraction technique. Fast text has word vectors for 157 languages including Sinhala. We have used fast text word embedding with 300 dimensions in Sinhala language and mapped the created word vocabulary with the word vectors. The model consists of neural network layers. Each layer has exactly one input tensor and one output tensor. The used three layers for the model are embedding, LSTM and dense layers. The embedding layer turns the positive integers into dense vectors of fixed. For the language modeling, it is needed to predict the next value in sequential data and require the previous behaviors and RNN used for that. However, RNN does not have enough capability to capture long-term dependencies in sequences. LSTM was introduced to resolve that, which is a specialized version of RNN used as the second layer. The third layer is the dense layer, which is a densely connected neural network layer. Here we have used the sigmoid activation function, which always returns a value between 0 and 1. The model employed a sigmoid activation function and a binary cross entropy loss function. This was trained for 10 epochs with the corpus. We have evaluated the model using metrics precision, recall, F1 score and accuracy with the Facebook post. The experiment shows that the trained model achieved an accuracy of 80% for hate and non-hate speech detection with Sinhala corpus. In this study, we examined the automatic detection of hate and non-hate speech in the Sinhala Facebook corpus. We used fast text and a special type of recurrent neural network, which is LSTM. Then the model was evaluated with the performance measurements of accuracy, precision, recall and F1 score. The accuracy of the model is 80% and it is accurately predicting the given fresh corpus as hate or non-hate. Therefore, the proposed model has performed well for single hate speech detection with the Facebook corpus. Some of the Facebook text may have been misclassified due to some reasons such as the absence of hate words, the importance of considering the context, the position of the status of the speaker in society. Finally, there are many features we have not considered when identifying the hate content such as caption of the images and image itself. This study is a part of a larger research and future work will be on a comprehensive analysis of hate speech detection in the social media platforms to minimize the consequences that occurred from hate speech online. As a future direction, it is important to classify hate speech such as racism, sexism, and minimize their use in the social media platforms in the Sri Lankan context. These are my references. Thank you very much for listening to me. I am happy to answer your questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Suresha, for making a very interesting research and presentation. Now it's open for questions for the audience. Any clarification?
I have one small question from Suresha. Now, Suresha, in your analysis, you have possibly extracted some, statements on social media. So, were they all written in Sinhalese characters, or can you take certain Sinhalese words written in English alphabetical letters?
Yes, sir. So actually what I have done was, as I have clearly mentioned, this is a part of a larger project. So we have extracted all the corpus with English, Sinhala and Singlish as well. For this study, we have considered only the corpus in Sinhala language. So the question that you have raised, whether it is possible to use the corpus with Singlish. Yes, sir. We have used an intermediary module where we can convert the Singlish to the language Sinhala, and then it is become the corpus, fresh corpus as Sinhala. So we can apply the same procedure to categorize it as hate or non-hate.
Yeah, I think in that case, my feeling is in that particular scenario, your accuracy of the predictions may come down a little bit, can come down. That is my impression, because now when you try to write something, a Sinhala word in English, you can write in different ways. So in that case, what is detected by the program may not be what is actually meant to be written. So English is perfectly fine, or Sinhala is perfectly would be fine. But when there is a kind of a transition, then possibly, I mean, you might be able to improve it by improving your the network or training the model through the neural network. So a little bit of a small comment. Yes. Right.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. So we will accommodate that comment, and we will try to improve the model, and we will see whether it is possible for us to improve or how we can accommodate those corpuses as well. Thank you very much for your comments, sir.
Thank you.
Any more question? I have one question on that. When you say speech, first I thought that it is audio, but later I understood that when you're talking about only the words. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
But you are,
there are various types that we can communicate through the computer in social media as well. So there are so many videos shared among the Facebook as well. So it is something like that. We have only considered at this moment the text only. So
text
if we
only,
have
okay.
text only, yes, only the text analysis. If we want, again, what we have to do is we have to use an intermediary module where we can convert those audio to text. Then after that, we can run the module. So this is how I can adapt those that audio into my study.
Anyway, it's very interesting. Thank you very much. Any more questions from the audience?
Yes, shall I ask a question for my understanding?
Yes, Rominder.
Say you have used neural networks. We have also using CNN and other networks. What is? Can you elaborate more revolutionary RNN that we have used, and what is the effect of using RNN to your overall the accuracy of the system?
Yes, sir. Normally in the text analysis process, people have used like conventional algorithms like naive Bayes, support vector machines, and those algorithms they have used. So what I have done first, I have checked the accuracy with those algorithms. Then after that, I was able to run my data set with the convolution neural network, that RNN. First, I checked with the normal dense layers, then the accuracy was a bit high than the normal algorithms that we have used like naive Bayes and SVM. After that, I was thinking about how can I improve more my neural network. Then I was able to find that some of the corpuses for like English, they have used the LSTM layer. So what did I was, I have incorporated that LSTM layer to check whether I can improve the accuracy of my model. So it was like improving about more than 10% with the normal convolution neural network layer by incorporating the LSTM layer to the recurrent neural network layer.
Okay, so once you understand this one, what is the ultimate goal? Like say it's H speed, you have understood it's a H speed speech. So what is your goal? What are you going to do with that?
Yes, sir. So that is very interesting because this is like something first at the first stage, what we are going to do is we are going to identify the hate speeches. Then the next stage is we are going to identify who are the propagators in the social media network. Then we are going to categorize them and we are going to rank them by allocating a rank for the social media propagators. Then what we have to do is we have to combat the hate speech spread within the social media network. So there are various methods that government and the like policymakers and also the social media platform owners that they are going to combat the hate speech. For an example, one method is they are totally delete the Facebook account. Maybe sometimes they are going to just restrict only the post. Sometimes they are going to like delete only the post, but they are keeping that propagator within the social media platform. So based on how the how much hate that they can propagate via the social media, we can take the actions accordingly, whether we are going to delete the entire account or whether we are going to just minimize the propagation of the hate speech throughout the social media, or we can like we can have we can dilute the conversation within the social media network. So it totally depends on how we are going to act upon the hate speech and how we are going to rank them within the social media network.
Thank you very much, Surasha and your team. Very interesting. With that, we come to the end of session. Over to Dr. Suminder.
Thank you very much, Suresh, and thank you very much, Professor Naik. And now let me take this opportunity to actually thank Professor Sena Naik for chairing this particular session on engineering technology. And also, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the academics and other members of the staff and all the participants who contributed to make this particular session a successful one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sumit.
Right. So we will wind up the session. Right. Thank you.
Okay. Right.
Good morning. I'm the session host. I believe we are waiting for the team convener to come in. I do apologize for the delay. There's a slight delay as we are waiting for the team convener. I believe he's in another session where there are parallel HSS sessions going on. The team convener will be coming in momentarily to introduce the chair of the session.
Hello. Hello.
We can hear you, sir.
Thank you. Sorry for the delay because, I will also introduce the other section. Dr. Bivimari Vendaputan also sharing the session, parallel session. So I just finished it and joining here. And this session going to be shared by Dr. Batmanesan. He's a senior lecturer in the Department of Social Studies. He has just completed his PhD in Kentucky University and come back. And he's also giving the leadership to the unit of sociology in the Department of Social Studies. And he has, published various enormous publication on ASA credit and internationally and locally, and regularly do the presentation in international conferences, and also some leading universities also there is addressing the keynote address to the other university and evaluating various social science research papers. And it's a great privilege for the presenter who is having giving a leadership to share the session in this afternoon session. And likewise, this morning there are around 7 presentation in this session, and many of them are newly with this first primary data analysis, and is going to be a very interesting session, and almost all discussing about the cross section of the social science issues in Sri Lanka, and some 1 or 2 theoretical papers also presented in this session. I think everybody can contribute, and I am also repeatedly asking the participants and the others to either you comment of the paper presented by the respective authors, or otherwise please ask any clarification, any questions from them. It is definitely will encourage the presenters to continue in this research. So therefore it's our duty, I consider our duty to encourage the mostly young people to do the presentation in this Open University Research Conference. So I first welcome the chairperson of the session and the presenters that we are going to do the presentation this session. So it's over to you, Dr. Batmanesan. I hope you will enjoy the this session in the afternoon, in this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Chandrabose, and good morning, everybody. So this is a parallel online session 4. So we have, there are like 7 papers. The first paper I very glad invite ID 139, W.N. Selaheber and T.D. Samarasinghe. So they will present on a systematic review of the fundamental theories on work-life balance with special reference to Sri Lankan context.
Dear sir, madam and colleague, have a great day for you all. We are very glad to present our research findings at Open University Research Sessions 2021. And we are going to present here our research findings related to a systematic review of the fundamental theories of work-life balance, special reference to Sri Lankan context. I am Vasana Nadishani from Moorvellas University, and myself and the Tilina Samarasinghe are the contributors for the current study. And this is the content of our presentation. Introduction. In simple terms, work life can normally be regarded as any paid employment related works. Life includes activities outside the work. In the community, there is a growing concern on balancing the quality of home and quality of life. At present, a higher portion of women from all social classes are engaging in paid employment, but there are enough number of evidence to support the imbalance in between the work life and the family life among the working crowd in Sri Lanka, as such in the world context. So the consequences include the growth of single-parent families, increasing the number of divorce cases, poor bonding between the parents and children, and less willingness to take responsibility for care of elderly relatives, etc. In addition, the pressures and demands from works reflected in long hours, more exhaustion, and the growth of evening and weekend works has been caused to less scope for quality family life. Research objective. The current study aims to examine the available theories on balancing work life and personal life. Therefore, the core objective of this study is to review the existing literature on work-life balance and consolidate them to gain a broader understanding. Research methodology. Relevant articles published in between 1960 to 2021 were identified through online search using the keywords such as work-life balance, spillover, compensation, conflict, etc. The major conceptual frameworks pertaining to work and life domains included in this study are segmentation theory, enrichment theory, spillover theory, compensation theory, conflict theory, and instrumental theory with adequate descriptions. Gathered details has been analyzed qualitatively with adequate descriptions. Research discussion. Segmentation theory. The earliest view of the relationship between work and home was that they are segmented and independent and do not affect each other. In segmentation theory, there is no interaction between the work life and the family life. As stated by Young and Kleiner in 1992, segmentation theory considers work and family as distinct entities and experiences in one will not affect or influence experiences in the other domain. Enrichment theory. Enrichment theory refers to the degree to which experiences from instrumental sources like skills, abilities, values, or affective sources like mood and satisfaction enhance the quality of the other domain. So, as an example, if someone has a good day at work, he or she comes home happily and is able to have extra energy to allocate to the family. And if one has a wonderful family life, he or she is able to bring these positive emotions to work. It also encompasses the positive influence of one role to another. Accordingly, it can be evidence that this theory is more practical than the segmentation theory with reference to Sri Lankan context. Spillover theory. Spillover theory suggested that workers carry the emotions, attitudes, skills, and behaviors that they established at work into their family life and vice versa. And accordingly, positive work experiences would be associated with positive family experiences, and negative work experiences would be associated with negative family experiences. In contrast to the idea generated by spillover theory, a number of partly overlapping theoretical processes a negative relationship between the two spheres as well. And compensation theory is the next theory. The compensation theory proposes that workers try to compensate for the lack of satisfaction in one domain, it may be work or home, by trying to find more satisfaction in the other. Compensation theory also predicts that the workplace and the family life are part of the same environment. However, work and home have a compensating effect on each other. One can usually make up for what is missing in one environment from another. Instrumental theory. The instrumental theory suggests that activities in one sphere facilitate success in the other. And Guest cites a traditional example where a worker strives to maximize work outcomes even at the price of working long hours in order to be able to buy a car and thus improve family life or own leisure time. Similar to the spillover approach, the instrumental approach suggests a positive relationship between these two spheres. This theory supports to the employees in Sri Lankan context as well, because majority of the employees rely on an occupation that brings a maximum economic assist to them. Conflict theory. Conflict occurs when the demands of work and home roles are incompatible in some respect, so that meeting the demands in one domain makes it difficult to meet the demands in the other domain. Interrole conflict theory refers to what occurs when meeting the demands in one domain makes it difficult to meet the demands in the other domain. And the conflict model proposes that with high level of demand in all spheres of life, for an instance, satisfaction in one environment entails sacrifice in the other due to the fact that these two environments are incompatible because each of them has own norms and requirements. Conclusion. Various scholars have highlighted several theories used to explain the relationship between work and life outside work. The segmentation model hypothesizes that work and non-work are two distinct domains. And in contrast, the spillover model hypothesis that one world can influence the other in either a positive or a negative way. Compensation model proposes that what may be lacking in one sphere in terms of demands or satisfaction can be made up in the other. Another model is an instrumental model whereby activities in one sphere facilitate success in the other. Conflict model is a model which proposes that with the high levels of demand in all spheres of life, some difficult choices have to be made and some conflict and possibly some significant overload on an individual may occur. These are the references we use to conduct our study. And thank you very much for your cooperation. Have a good day.
Thank you, Sudhavila. And now the floor is open for questions, comments from participants.
Dr. Padmanesan, Nipuni here. Can I ask a question?
Of course, please.
Yeah, so congratulations on your presentation. That really gave us much to think about. I have sort of a comment as well as a question, I guess. One would be that the first one would be, the certain terms that you use, for instance, things like satisfaction or quality family life can have sort of subjective meaning, and I think in research you might want to ensure that certain essentialist sort of definitions of these terms are avoided, so that one is not restricted in any way. When you say satisfied family life or quality family life, because those things might mean different things to different people. That is number one. Number two would be, I'm this again, like I'm trying to I'm actually wondering here whether you have used gender as a factor in when you're evaluating a work-life balance, because in reality, especially in the context of Sri Lanka, women are more burdened and more pressurized with household related chores. So I was just wondering whether you took that aspect into consideration, or whether you want to think about it at a later stage. Thank you and congratulations again.
Any other comments and questions?
Yeah, I did have one, just a quick question. Did your survey on work take into consideration unpaid work?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, this is a theoretical review. Therefore, we consider the theory suggests all the things we considered. That means paid, unpaid, and all.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Sela Haver, for your wonderful presentations. I have a small observations that work-life balance. Already, Nipuni Ranavina, she has mentioned the gender aspect is missing that. I mean, you could have focus on that aspect as well. And also, how do you take it up from, is it a like a patriarchal or capitalist idea of like promoting commercialization or even the capitalism in a working place, like to see and how this concept is very useful for particular, the people. So we need to, I was thinking to be much more critical on this. Also, need of kind of cross-cultural comparison, because that, of course, the work-life balance, it varies from in terms of cultural diversity and also regional diversity, the context diversity. So, and also we need to look at, it's a very localized concept, or is a like Western or imperialistic idea of this coming to the world, and to promote like kind of capitalist idea or whatever. So that's actually, I was thinking about that's a little bit much more some critical on this. Also the methodology and seeing how you have collected this data, balancing the men and women to see the disparity of this, how the performance of this work-life balance is going on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
So I will call upon next presentation, ID number 169, the impact of emotional maturity on the self-esteem, a study of second-year Tamil medium students of Arts Faculty, University of Colombo. There are three presenters presenting this presentation: T. Midilai Maran, N. Pasdevan, four people: H. Hazy and M. Krishna Soban. So now this over to you. Could you please start the presentation? ID number 169. Okay, thank you.
Hello everyone. Today I'm going to discuss about the impact of emotional maturity on the self-esteem, a study of second-year Tamil medium students from Faculty of Arts, University of Colombo. So according to our research topic, let's move into the introduction part. Life is becoming complex day by day. In the present circumstances, the undergraduate students are facing difficulties that are giving rise to many issues such as tension, anxiety, emotional imbalance in everyday life. An emotion is an affective experience that accompanies state up mental and psychological states show its self-aware behavior. Maturity is the ability to stick with a project or situation until it is finished. Every human being has emotions and feelings. Today's youth are tomorrow's leaders. So, the impact of emotional maturity among young people in their self esteem will continue in the future. Therefore, emotional maturity is a requirement for starting and maintaining a relationship. Self esteem is a feeling of personal worth influenced by performance, abilities, appearance, and adjustment of significant others. Therefore, we choose this topic based on some of the incidents we have seen among second year Tamil medium arts faculty students of University of Colombo to know their opinion on the impact of emotional maturity on self-esteem. Through this research, we got lots of ideas about emotional maturity from undergraduate students who are currently studying at Faculty of Arts, University of Colombo. This research will help to gain a good knowledge about emotional maturity on self-esteem. Through this research, we will be able to clarify some fact in the future. This study mainly focuses about there are three objectives. The first objective is to identify the main things about emotional maturity level through their self-esteem. The second objective is to identify the self-esteem of male and female undergraduates. The last objective is to examine the emotions and feelings through their mindset and collect their opinion about the impact of emotional maturity on self-esteem. Let's move into the methodology part. We have used both primary and secondary data collection method for collecting data. The study applies random sampling method to select 30 students in the study area. Data has been analyzed through Microsoft Excel and results have been presented in the form of charts and graphs. When we consider about the result and discussion parts, we can see the emotionally mature level on self-esteem among students through this table. According to the research, when examining their emotionally mature position based on the method of expressing angry feel, they responded that 46.9% of the total students kept silent, as well as 18.4% of people said that they would find out the reason for their angry feel. Because when they express their angry feeling, they fear that their life and education level will be affected. Due to this, they lose their self-esteem in public places. They said that sometimes get angry without realizing it and that the situation affect their self-esteem. Happiness comes from physical, mental and emotional health. So, it is also about understanding emotions, taking part in different activities, having a good relationship and social connection. So, they short out those responses and situations. It is noteworthy that this answer was much said by the students of the Department of Political Science and Public Policy. But 43 of students said these activities affected their self-esteem. Each university students always trust their friends, so they are sharing happiness and sadness. Because most of the Tamil medium students come from the long distance area from Colombo. That's why they always feel alone. So, their friends are the best supporters to them in those situations. Because of this, they're sharing everything with their friends. But they have also said some friends sometimes act differently for their own benefit. In this situation, the particular student's self-esteem and trust were affecting. When undergraduate students explore how they express their failure based on their gender, most of the male students said that they accepted their failures. It was 12.5%. At the same time, 8% of women students said that they found themselves feeling unconfident. Based on this result, we can identify the effect of gender maturity in case of failures. They have also said that when they fail, their self-esteem was affected and they feel alienated. Based on the students' responses, they were they were found to be cowardly in the first year, then it obviously changed to self-confident in the second year. They said that the ragging is a major reason for this change. In the ragging time, students should sacrifice their self-esteem. If not, they will be alienated by their seniors and mentally disturbed by seniors and underestimated. Most of the arts faculty students stay in the government hostels which are provided by the university. Especially in the first year of period, the hostel provided to them is located in the farther suburban area. Due to this, they have to travel by bus for a long time. During this time, when someone asks about some question in Sinhala, most of the Tamil students cannot give the answer in Sinhala, and some places cannot identify or they didn't know the name. It would have a huge impact their self-esteem among the passengers. 49.5% of students said that they were humiliated in public places because of language problem. Because of this, they faced some psychological problem oftenly. They said this situation was causing them to lose their self-esteem among their other language friends. So, most of the students said that they were humiliated several times during the ragging and they were frustrated with the dress code given to them in the Colombo city environment, which in many ways affected their identity. Also, all participants have suggested some traits that one should have emotionally mature based on their experience. According to these answers, they mentioned that an emotionally mature person should have self confidence, listen to others' opinion, be a leader, and be patient and having good language knowledge. Let's move into the conclusion part. Most of the fresher students lose their self esteem in university or out of the university. These situations are making them uncomfortable and mentally affected. On the other hand, these types of situations make their future life better. Also, lots of students didn't accept themselves as emotionally mature because every human being is created by emotions and feelings. Therefore, each of us unknowingly express emotion in some unexpected ways. So, the impact of particularly acute among Colombo University Arts Faculty second year Tamil medium students as evidenced by their responses. It is also noteworthy that many students don't accept themselves as emotionally mature. So, the conclusion is students' self-esteem affected has a great mental impact on the students. So, the university and the university students' communities should take the necessary steps to build the self-esteem among the students. These are the references which we have used for this research. Thank you so much to everyone for giving this great opportunity. This is the time for asking question. So if you have any question, you can ask now.
Yes. Thank you, Midale Maran and co-presenters for congratulations for presenting fascinating presentations today. So now the floor is open for questions and comments. Okay, so if you don't have any questions, I have a small concern on these presentations. I mean, study of emotions, I mean, the methodology sections they have in the abstract, they mentioned they have employed quantitative techniques, but I was thinking like study of emotions, it needs more information from qualitative research methodology that is it's give more into details of this emotional maturity. So the next presentation I call next presentation ID 187, a sociological analysis of the urban school education sector and the reproduction of social inequality, a case study by PKGIL Ranasinghe.
I'm Lavangi Ranasinghe, and topic of my presentation is a sociological analysis on the urban school education sector and the reproduction of social inequality, a case study. Outline of this presentation is background, methodology, findings, conclusions, and references. Moving to the background of this presentation, education is an activity which continues in a society, and aims and methods of education would depend on the nature of the society in which it takes place. The Asian subcontinent is home to almost half of the urban population in the world, and the majority of them belong to shanty and slum communities living under impoverished conditions. Whether the urban schools reproduce social inequality in Sri Lankan state school education system has been considered as a research problem of the study, and identifying the nature of social inequality reproduced by the state urban school education sector in Sri Lanka has been considered as the main research objective of this study. As specific research objectives of this study, I have considered on the contribution of educational curriculum in reproducing social inequality, and contribution of urban school subcultures in reproducing social inequality, and to identify the external power groups that influence to reproduce the social inequality in state urban sector schools. Through research questions of this research, I have considered on how is social inequality reproduced through the school curriculum, and how does the subculture of state urban school education sector contribute to reproduce social inequality, and how do class factors contribute to reproduce social inequality, and what is the impact of external power groups of schools on the reproduction of social inequality in the state urban sector school education in the country. Moving to the theoretical and conceptual framework, I have considered on urban education, urbanization, reproduction of inequality, cultural reproduction, legitimate knowledge, Marxist perspective on education, and liberal perspective on education. Moving to the research methodology, students of 2 state urban schools located in Colombo district under the governance of Colombo Municipal Council was selected in order to collect primary data, and Colombo has been considered as the commercial hub and the main urban area of Sri Lanka with a population of over 1 million people, and students representing grade 5 to 13 were selected. Structured interviews were conducted with 10 teachers, and semi-structured interviews were conducted with 25 students and their parents or guardians. 2 structured interviews were conducted with officials related to the education system of the country and considering them as key informants. This is a qualitative analysis, and the thematic analysis was used to analyze data. And this study can be considered a case study specifically dealing with those cases. Moving to the results and discussion. Here I have mentioned few primary data, few codes of primary data which I have gathered through data collection. Social institution is a behavioral system that interconnects and functions across the whole society. Skills, knowledge, and attitudes are considered as the main aspects of an ideal education. Education is a process by which the society transmits its knowledge, skills, values to their next generations, and it's important in socialization and generating knowledge. Education is a process that has been developed through a long-term process. When considering the present school system in Sri Lanka, there are 10,390 government schools. The curriculum is offered by the Ministry of Education, and schooling is compulsory for children from grade 6 to 16 years, and government education is state funded and offered free of charge until the university level. State education structure is divided into 5 parts as primary, junior secondary, senior secondary, collegiate and tertiary, and there are 33 non-fee levying private schools and 33 fee levying autonomous private schools according to Sri Lanka Fulbright Commission 2012. In a discussion on the urban education, we have to understand what a city is, and the concept of city also has been evolved over time. In the industrial city, the individuals were bound together by the division of labor, which is called organic solidarity instead of mechanical solidarity. Wirth has explained three main characteristics of a city. Those are the massive size of population, its high population density, and its social diversity. The most accepted definition of urban education refers to the schools in metropolitan communities that are typically diverse, characterized by large enrollments and complexity, with many struggling with the growth. The public schools in these urban communities often serve students representing many ethnic minorities as well as multiple languages and have a greater concentration of the poor. There are many differences between children attending urban schools, and many of the students are often tied together by their socio-economic levels in the urban context. Therefore, students in the urban system may need different types of support to ensure their learning, as they represent different cultures, ethnicities, and socio-economic groups. There are 5 types of schools in the country as Colombo Popular Schools, Colombo Middle Level Schools, Colombo Non-Affluent Schools, Suburban Schools, Outstation Schools, and Rural Schools. External power groups such as the Old Boys Association in Colombo affluent schools have a greater impact on school activities. However, in underprivileged, non-national and peripheral state urban schools, it's not the same. According to the primary data gathered, economic capabilities of the family do have a significant impact on their children's education in the state urban school education sector in the country. Most significantly, the private tuition culture of the urban school education sector has a major impact on their academic outcomes. As explained by a pioneer liberal thinker, Appel, the education system is seen as the result of continuing struggle between and within dominant and dominated groups. Most importantly, the difficulty to get admission to the privileged Colombo national schools with pro-English and upper middle class subculture reflects how state urban schools in the country reproduce inequalities. Moving to the conclusion, most importantly, students in urban schools may also need different types of support to ensure their learning, as they represent different cultures, ethnicities, and socio-economic groups, or else they would experience inequality within the education system owing to their social classes, subcultures, ways of lives. Thank you. And Your question and clarifications are welcome.
Thank you, Ranasinka. So any questions, comments from participants? Thank you, Ranasinka, for wonderful presentations, presenting on social inequality and how it's functioning in urban schools. And also I will have a small, clarification on addressing different sociological perspective, and to be very specific rather than using different sociological perspective, the term, and also unique characteristic that mentioned in the abstract. So I would like very much to know what are those unique characteristic. Could you explain?
That means you are referring to what are the characteristics which are recognized in urban sector, state urban sector schools, and what are the theoretical approaches that have been used. Is that so, sir?
Thank you. So we will move to the next presentation, ID 195. Identifying an epidemic resistant theater to avoid shutting down theater during a pandemic. CP Gunamunigi.
Hello, good morning. My name is Chamila Priyanka. I'm working as an assistant lecturer at the Department of Fine Arts in the University of Peradeniya. Hello, good morning. My name is Chamila Priyanka. I'm working as an assistant lecturer at the Department of Fine Arts in the University of Peradeniya. My research topic is identifying an epidemic resistant theater to avoid shutting down theater during a pandemic. So the crisis faced by the performing arts during the COVID pandemic is critical. Broadway theaters in the United States and Western theaters in the United Kingdom, which relied on big capital, decided to close, while other theaters around the world closed without a date for reopening because of the COVID-19. When you look at this chart, you can see from January to October, how the ticket sales performance have come down in the UK. So, according to the National Endowment for the Arts, it says during the quarter ending in September, when the overall unemployment rate averaged 85%, which means 52% of actors, 55% of dancers, and 27% of musicians were out of work because of the COVID situation. So performing arts all over the world face a major crisis due to the closure of the theater. So I was interested in a research on the condition under which the performing arts could be revived in the wake of the COVID crisis. So there are significant researches and discussions are currently happening in the world on how to continue the theater during the epidemic session without closure. These studies are dominated by some performing arts companies around the world. As a result of my research, I found that German theater company named Berlin Ensemble recently removed about 70% of the seats in their theater and relocated seats to keep the social distance of an audience. So you can see in this picture how they relocated their theater. Although this is a very good option, scientific research on COVID has shown that indoor spaces are more prone to the spread of COVID diseases than outdoor spaces. Therefore, in spite of keep the distance in an internal space is a risky according to the current situation. According to the report of the BBC, the chief medical officer of the United Kingdom, has said the risk of contracting the COVID virus is lower in the open environment than in the interior. The BBC also reported that the virus is more likely to die to outside. So Nusani Rashini, MD, MPH, Director of the Center for Nature and Health at the University of California, says that although the virus may be active in the outside environment, it has a low value relative to the inside environment. She has done 5 studies, and in her 5 studies, she says in their analysis determined that less than 10% of reported global SARS-CoV-2 infections have occurred outdoors, and that the odds of indoor transmission were 18%, 7 times higher in comparison to the outdoor transmission. According to the World Health Organization website, it says, in the context of COVID-19, airborne transmissions may be possible in specific circumstances and settings in which procedure or support treatments that generate aerosol are performed. So that means World Health Organization has confirmed that the virus travel in the air only when it contacts another person. Therefore, maintain the required distance, reduce the risk. Although there are various hypotheses that the virus travels through the air, it has not been confirmed by research. The World Health Organization says the virus has been in the air for a long time, but it does not travel through the air. This scientific research confirmed that staging a play inside a theater can spread the virus even if the seats are arranged with social distance. This means outside is safer than inside to stage a play. The interaction of historical Greek theater with the natural environment is a significant factor for this research. The Greek Dionysus theater, for example, was built in an isolated jungle, and such an environment was resistant to the spread of an epidemic. Also, the large space of these theaters is a great help to keep the social distance. The research of Robin Michel Boax about the Great Plague in Athens, which happened 430 BC, and the medical background of historical theater focus on why Athenians set up healing center called Acropolis near the Dionysus theater. The name of Acropolis came from a place that, according to the Greek mythology, is reminiscent of the first physician Acropolis. Athenians believe that Greek poetry had the power to cure diseases. The purpose of building a hospital next to the theater is evident that theater has healing power in addition to the medical treatment available at the hospital during an epidemic. This finding revealed that the theater was kept open during the plague of Athens for medical purpose. You can see this plan sketch of the Greek theater, and you can see there's a Acropolis behind the theater. So Michel Boax says in his book named Plague and Athenian Imagination, with this association in mind, I suggest again that the placement of Acropolis immediately above the theater of Dionysus is not a mere coincidence, but rather it arises first from archaic association between poetry and healing that became more urgent because of the plague. Although there is no clear evidence to prove the healing power of a play, it is clear that the ancient Greek open theater was an ideal setting for a play during a plague. There is social isolation, especially in it because it is big size, and the spread of the virus is minimum due to the open air. So, above findings are significant in research which seeks to identify an epidemic-resistant theatre models in Sri Lanka. There are a number of open theatres in Sri Lanka, such as the Sarachandra Open Theatre at University of Peradeniya and the Panibharata Open Theatre at University of Sabaragamu. These theatres are important here because their architectures and locations are similar to ancient Greek theatre. Most of these theaters have accessibilities for a large audience. For an example, the Sarat Chandra Open Theatre can usually hold between 3,000 to 4,000 audience at a time. Therefore, instead of closing theaters, these open theaters can be used to continue the play during a pandemic. Also, it is important to keep these open theaters architecture as a model for new theater construction to avoid shutting down theaters in a future pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Sipu Namunike, even though the presenter is not here, so I don't think.
I'm here, sir.
Oh, you're here. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So because I went another, I got another Zoom link. That's why I missed that. Okay.
Oh, I see.
Sorry.
That's fine. Okay. Thank you so much. So now it's open for questions. Any comments?
Interesting, Dr. Padmanesan. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. That is really a great presentation, which should really awaken the policymakers. As you rightly said, the Sabaragamo Theatre as well as Peradeniya is very important for us to, see a drama in this pandemic context. So I would like to get additional comment from you about banning musical shows, which are held in general on the grounds. So I would like to get any comments from you on this dimension within the context of your research. Thank you.
Okay. So you are asking me about the
the government have, yeah, that's right. Musical shows.
Banning musical, so
right,
I think we can't. Sometimes we can't recommend. This is because of this situation. We can't say the governments need to open the theaters or anything because we don't know. That's a very crucial situation. But actually, I focus on the theater because theater is especially we can sit somewhere and enjoy it and watch that. So I don't know, sometimes we can't banning musicals, sometimes people's moving around. Maybe we can use a same procedure for a musical. If they can sit and watch that musical, that would be, that's okay in open theater, I think.
Yeah, Dr. Padmanesan, with your consent, I'll ask second clarification
sure,
as well.
Please.
I was in Heidelberg just 1 year ago. Are they still doing open theater? Are they practicing this open theater at the moment during the COVID-19 pandemic, according to your experience? Because you take examples from Germany as well.
Yeah, actually, they started even National Theatre. The England, there's the theatre named National Theatre. So they recently, before the COVID-19, they created an open theatre in city. That's a very great idea. Usually that we think we can make an open theater in a remote area near to the nature. Near to the maybe forest, like near the natural environment, like Greek theater. But in National Theatre, they created open theater in the city, very very busy city. But there's a glass door in front of the theater. So people moving around and they see something happen in that theater. So that's a new kind of architecture for the future open theater, because sometimes we can't locate the theaters every time in for the places remote area. Sometimes we can use the urban areas, but we can use that urban areas like open theater using glass doors like that. So there's same thing happen. There's an open theater. It's kind of people who are moving to buy something. They are walking around the road. Then there's a kind of window shopping. They can see something happen there like that. That's a good idea also. I think they are practicing it. Yes. So and also I think and also there's a I think I don't remember the name of this architecture. He's planning to he's suggesting we can create open theaters like that to go play. Play the dramas during the pandemic. Like that. Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Chamila. Any other questions? Once again, congratulations, Shamila, for presenting. It's really interesting, fascinating presentation. I mean, you are trying to the value of the historical representation from the modeling of a historically important theater tradition. So to the current scenario, particularly the during the pandemic, and also that is you need to. I mean, I was thinking to that, talking about the group of people who are really intent to go to the theater physically and see. I mean, you need to see. I mean, a lot of other group of people also that reluctant to go to the theater, even though that physically, I mean, they modified and they structured open theater. But what about, I mean, other forms of emerging other forms of like a transformation of online or virtual form of theater traditions? I mean, during the pandemic, there are a lot of other people also bringing to the theater traditions through online, like a virtual transformation. This is my small concept. I mean, observation. If you have any answer, you can answer. Otherwise, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, like we know, we love theater because of the liveness of the. I mean, there's no any. I mean, we know some musicals and dance performance we have to do lively, but theater is a live media. I mean, we can't do. I mean, we have to satisfy because of this situation using virtual space for the drama, but theater is a, I mean, live space where actors and performers and audience lively met and they are talking. They have I mean, that's a so I recommend theater should be in I mean, live live space, because people are gathering there and talking and they know each other. I mean, they can see each other. So that's the one of the quality of the theater, drama and theater. So but in virtual space, I think after the COVID started, then you should the especially Broadway theaters, they open some virtual spaces and they show their play using virtual spaces. But thing is, there's most of critics says that's not the theater, that's a movie. We can't, that's even we say lively, but we can't feel it like live theater. Theater should be live. That's the only reason.
Thank you, Chamila. And I will call upon next presentation ID 149, fast food consumption among the advanced level school students in Hatton in the district of Nuwara Eliya. This presentation by M. Krishnasoban, A. Niroshi, and Indra Lavanya.
Hello everyone, I am Krishna Shoban from University of Colombo, Sri Lanka. I've done my research on fast food consumption among the advanced level students in Hatton in the district of Nuwara Eliya. This is the content of our research: introduction, objective of the study, methodology, results and discussion, and conclusion. First of all, we have to talk about what is fast food. Food is the most precious energy supplement to human being. In the modern era, people consume fast food frequently. Fast food can be defined as a meal which contains a lot of fat and sugar, oil, salt, high calories, but has low nutrition value and qualities. Generally, fast food is given a very attractive appearance by adding food additives and colors to enhance the flavor texture for increasing the long shelf life. Fast food culture spread across the world, including Sri Lanka. There are two objectives in the study. The first objective is to find the contributory factors to consume the fast food among the school students. The second objective is to identify the health issues among the school students. Study area. The Hatton is selected as a study area which is located in Nuwara Eliya district, Sri Lanka. Methodology. Data have been collected through primary and secondary sources. A structural questionnaire survey and focus group discussion were used to collect primary data. Secondary data such as published reading materials and internet sources. The study applies purposive sampling method to select 100 students who were affected by fast food consumption. Data has been analyzed using Microsoft Excel. Results have been presented in form of chart and graphs. Now the most valuable part of this presentation, results and discussion. According to the findings, 31% of students have agreed with the fact that taste is the prime causes to consume the fast food among the students. 73% of students have agreed it is a habit for consuming the fast food. Easy to eat is the third causes to consuming the fast food. Students should wash their hands before and after eating homemade food. But when eating fast food, they are very comfortable to eat, which means that such meals can be eaten everywhere and anytime. 10% of students stated that they eat fast food because of its attraction. Thus, fast food companies are employing different methods such as graceful advertisement, attractive packaging, and tasteful artificial ingredients. Moreover, according to the findings, inexpensiveness, fun, and entertainment are deeply connected to consume the fast food among the students. Another finding is health issues in the school students. Health issues related to fast food consumption have been gathered by students' own experience that participate survey. According to the results, obesity, dental decay, pimple or acne, lack of concentration, digestive problem, headache, fatigue have been vulnerable health impact among the school students. Especially 52% of male students and 56% of female students have been affected due to the dental decay. They could not be properly consume their meals because of dental decay and toothaches. Further, this caused gastritis. Unhealthy fast food tends to cause pimple and acne. Approximately 80% of students have agreed with unhealthy fast food consumption is one of the top reasons to pimple or acne. The study found that 76% of students have eaten mostly fast food in evening and night times. During these times, they have taken chips, snacks, fried rice, and soft drinks items. These cause digestive problem, headache, and fatigue. Conclusion: the study focused on the unhealthy fast food consumption among the advanced level students, where the taste, habits, easy to eat, and attractiveness have been primary contributory factors to eating fast food. Thus, they faced health difficulties at the very young age. Finally, this study conveys appropriate recommendation to minimize the impact of the fast food consumption in the school students. Recommendation: schools should create the awareness about the importance of the healthy meals for human body. Class teacher should monitor the students' breakfast and lunch. Students must understand the negative impact of eating fast food and must slowly reduce the eating fast food and their consumption. Bring healthy food from the home. Parents should provide natural drinks instead of soft drink to students. For example, water, fruit juice, coconut water, and fresh milk. Make homemade version of fast food like rolls, cutlet, patties, and cakes. These are some of references in my study. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Krishna Soban and others, and open for questions. Any comments? If you don't have any questions, we will move to the next presentation. Before moving to the presentation, I may have a small concern on this food consumption. It's really interesting, but also please look at other places where other studies have, undertaken in terms of a kind of convenience, time, and taste. So those factors as well to be, discussed and seen how those other various factors also determine the high consumption of fast food.
Dr. Padmanabhan, if there's time, can I?
Sure, please.
Yeah, it's very interesting presentation. We know, eat in Vade dosa has been part of the food habits that we have. So I think there's something broader connected to this food consumption culture. I invite our colleagues to go, engage in a deeper analysis on the observations that they have made. Perhaps that can be looked from culture of poverty perspective, and also perhaps from the user's point of view. Yeah, these are some comments I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Anton. So now I invite the next presentation, ID 208, the Patani worshipping cult, an indigenous approach to negotiating natural disasters in Sri Lanka, by Professor Anton Piyaratne.
Hello, I'm Anton Piyaratne from the Open University Sri Lanka. The topic for today's discussion is folk religious practices as an indigenous approach to negotiating disaster risk in Sri Lanka. In this presentation, I'm going to explain how folk religious practices and belief systems of ordinary villagers living on the eastern coast of Sri Lanka, Panama, have given them early warnings of the disaster, enabling them to prepare for it and successfully manage it. It is about the people's embodied cultural capacity to negotiate with the natural and man-made disasters. When there are trouble, Goddess Patini appeared in the dreams of few holy people in the village, providing for warnings about precarious situations to come in the future. Prior to the tsunami 2004, this led the entire village to gather in the village shrine room called Ampitiya Devalaya to perform rituals which acted as a mechanism for awareness creation and preparation that reduced the disaster risk of the community and ultimately saved their lives and properties. My presentation is divided into a few sub-themes for your better understanding as given here. There are not many research done on the eastern coast of Sri Lanka. Nuri Alman, Dennis B. McGilvray did some research in this part of the country. The East is presented in recent anthropological writings as a location where there is a considerable level of interethnic relations, co-residence, intermarriages between ethnic and religious groups, and religious cooperation. The entire East can be considered a zone in which broader and overarching culture exists beyond the narrow ethno-religious divisions. The current paper illustrates how this long-standing culture can be embodied and people can sense risks and mitigate them successfully. During my stay in the small and beautiful village Panama, one of the research problems came into my mind was how do religious beliefs and cultural practices help in disaster risk reduction and management? When it comes to research methodology, basically I followed phenomenological approach in the village to collect ethnographic data. During this period, a lot of ethnographic interviews were done, participant observation, informal discussions, key informed interviews were the modes of data collection. Eminent themes were elicited from the purpose of this paper out of the narratives collected from the villages. There are 10,000 persons living in Panama today. The villagers do not negotiate along ethnic borders but use caste to interact with differently politically mobilized groups in other parts of the country. John Rogers argued that the legitimacy for kinship was defined not alone ethnic but caste lines in the 18th century in Sri Lanka in the Kandyan Kingdom. Perhaps these characteristics may be still reflecting in Panama community, which is composed of the descendants from the upcountry. Panama is also a good example of a remote village where both Tamil and Sinhala ethno-nationalism were challenged and the social equilibrium of this micro-social space survived. This social equilibrium whereby Sinhalas and Tamils live as high and low caste groups appears to be the form of common grounds there. Obesecker and Yalman identified Panama as shatter zones, where there is a substantial degree of intermarriage, ritual collaboration, and ethnic merging. Since I talk about embodiment of culture, it is very interesting and important for us to understand the existing culture in this part of the country. Panama is divided into 4 caste groups. It has Goigama and Vellala at the top, then Dobi, then Barber and Padu. As you all aware, Goigama is the highest caste in Sinhala caste structure. According to Hindu caste structure, Vellala is the highest caste. Dobi is a Tamil Hindu caste. Barber also Tamil caste according to the structure in the village. Padu is Sinhalese caste. In that sense, both Sinhala and Tamil groups are united as caste groups in one whole system in this village. So it is a combination of Sinhala and Tamil caste which forms one unique social system in this village. These are very important 3 concepts in the Panama village. In general, their everyday conversation, Panama people use kinship terminologies to address fellow villagers. Some of such terminologies are Mama, Bappa, Nanda, Siya, Mutta, etc. Yalman identified that the Panama kinship pattern is as an amalgam of Sinhala and Tamil systems. This is a result of Sinhala-Tamil mixed marriages. Binna marriage happened there, through which they establish blood relations. In Tamil we call it Rethuru, or in Sinhala Lenakama. In all the caste groups, respecting the fact that marriage happened between parallel caste groups in the Sinhala and Tamil communities. However, the marriages between 2 different castes is banned, and those who do so are compelled to leave their high caste status. This situation led nearby villagers to call Panama people as Kavalam people. Kavalam, a mixed community. This section is very important for our main discussion. Worshipping goddess Pattini and god Kovalan, Ganadeyu, popularly known as Vinayagar, Lord Ganapati are the Hindu pantheon, and god Murugan, Katharagamadeyu, Skandakumara is part and parcel of long-lasting religious tradition of the village. Goddess Pattini plays a very important role in shaping the belief system of the villagers as the deity responsible for prosperity and safety as the main guardian deity of the village. The annual religious festivals such as Ankeliya, Hornpulin or Kombu Velayatu in Tamil ritual are the key rituals of Panama. These rituals start with the participation in the annual religious festivals of Katharagama Devalaya that last for 14 days. Hindu Tamil devotees start their annual pilgrimage on foot called Padayatra, or in Tamil Padayatire, from Jaffna Nallur temple, traveling through Trincomalee, Batticaloa, Pothuville to Panama and walk about 450 kilometers in total, including traversing Yala National Forest to reach Katharagama. I took part in this Padayatra through which I understood the embodied religious traditions. People in the village Panama believe that they are always protected by goddess Pattini from man-made disasters as well as natural disasters. They were protected by goddess Pattini when LTTE tried to launch attacks against the village. Especially with regard to natural disaster, in 2004, they were protected by goddess Pattini appearing via dreams of few holy people of the village. She appeared at least 3 times in dreams of 3 holy people. After this, the villagers gathered at the Ampite shrine room and performed rituals which can be considered as preparation for a disaster, for an unknown disaster. After few months later, 6 months or so later, tsunami waves approached the village, and villagers who were already prepared for such disasters ran away to the hill areas and protected their lives. So this was very interesting as this particular village is located a few feet lower than the sea level and by the side of the sea. I would like to share the dream of the Kapua. Kapua said, I started to believe in dreams after this dream. I normally sleep in Buruanda or camp bed. While I was sleeping, I felt that we were going to perform the water cutting ritual. But I did not have anything needed for the ritual in hand. I was thinking about this as well. I saw many people were walking with me. Eventually, we went up to the sea where we performed the ritual. There we performed Madayak, which is a ritual or puja or offering, reciting certain stanzas. Following this offering, those people who want to perform various rituals are supposed to come to the water and perform their rites. However, when I looked at the sea, I saw no water. I could see only stones and logs. I was walking further into the sea, and when I looked back, I noticed that people were still standing at the beach. When I looked back at the sea again, I spotted high waves approaching me. I was frightened and started running back to the seashore. The high waves were chasing me. I was screaming, Mawalla Palla, do hold me. Suddenly I felt a woman catching my hand. So he assumed that woman was Goddess Pattini. However, after a few weeks, she appeared in the dream of Murti, another holy man of the village, and told that she appeared in the dream of lower side lay clergyman, but he didn't take it serious and compelled Murthy to do something. Then Murthy shared this story at the village bazaar, which eventually led for people to gather in the Ampite Shrine complex and perform some rituals. And this can be considered as preparation for a disaster which saved lives of the villagers. According to the analysis of the research data, what I found is that the capacity these villages have to foresee the future is an outcome of the embodiment of the culture and heritage. Since the time they escaped from the upcountry after the 1818 riots to save their lives from the British torture, they had been undergoing a lot of sufferings and the way of negotiating with those harsh realities. The culture they inherit includes all those experiences. This capacity I would like to call as constructing common grounds, which is an embodied culture and heritage. The common ground notion of common ground that I have developed here, taking ideas from Bourdieu as well as Michael Jackson, an anthropologist. The study simply shows the capacity of embodied culture and heritage in dealing with natural and man-made disasters. With regard to natural disaster, only one person from the village died and almost all the villagers saved their lives and properties due to this embodied culture and heritage. Your ideas are highly welcome for me to develop this paper. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Anton, for really, really fascinating presentations about like kind of therapeutic religiosity through the role of Goddess Patini in Sri Lanka. So that's really interesting, and it's open for questions now. Any comments from participants?
So rather than a question, I would like to give an opinion with this regard. Since as
Please.
we discussed in the previous session, my study also was very much related to this sort of, the field was very much alike. So my opinion is that it's very much fascinating to see that we are talking about modernization, technology, professional intervention, so and so. But we can still see that most of the people who are very much connected with environment and the people who are very much connected with the beliefs that they are, like embedded with their own culture, have their own survival mechanisms to respond to these natural disasters or whatever the disasters are. So my opinion is like, even though we are talking about these high technological stuffs and the professional stuffs, this research findings show us that we should be like, as sociologists or as social workers, we should be very much sensitive to the indigenous knowledge and the belief systems of the people, because within the cultures people have inculcated their own like survival mechanisms. It is somewhat inherent to the communities. So thank you for sharing this knowledge in these common forums. I was very much fascinated by hearing your study and the findings. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments, observations, questions? Okay, so we don't have any questions. So we will move to the last presentation of this session. ID 81, the politics of sharing and caring, Sri Lankan women's groups on social media, by RLAN Ranavira.
Good day, I am Nipuri Ranavira from the Department of Language Studies. The title of my presentation today would be The Politics of Sharing and Caring, Sri Lankan Women's Groups on Social Media. Social media has become a crucial platform where individuals maintain communities with like-minded, similarly placed people. I would be focusing on this study on groups for women, on issues related to women. So I would be looking at groups which share advice on matters related to the domestic sphere, motherhood, women and work, etc. I would see these groups evolving from older media such as women's magazines and then blogs, leading on to groups and pages on social media in the Sri Lankan context. This study would be based on the observations on 3 prominent social media groups. I would be focusing on how these posts impact women reading them. And I would be paying attention to how women in Sri Lanka negotiate their identities as women and sometimes as mothers within these social media groups in a backdrop of global neoliberal and post-feminist trends. I would like to question their status as repositories of advice and communal knowledge. Globally, research in the field of women's groups on social media is fairly recent and is developing rapidly. The research areas that would be related to my study would be digital intimacies, post-feminist identities, as well as celebrity cultures or celebrity cultures in social media. And it would also be related to domains such as the study of affect and the study of intimate publics, and more specifically, the study of digital intimate publics. In the Sri Lankan context, although research has been done on online activism, protection and the protection of women online, no research has been done to date on groups from the perspective of digital intimacies or intimate publics. I would be relying heavily on the concept of intimate publics as expounded by the theorist Laurent Berlon. Just to give a brief outline of my theoretical framework, I will be looking at the works of Kanai and Dobson, who have worked on the concept of sameness maintained by women of diverse backgrounds and origins. And I would also be looking at Laurent Berlon's notion of the good life, which actually refers to the desire to maintain certain standards regarding a desirable life, which is supposed to which people are supposed to aspire to. And then the concept of intimate publics relates to a notion of familiarity, which is maintained among people or women in this case of diverse backgrounds. I would also be looking at Macroby and Gill and their working of the notion of the perfect, and how optimism and individualization intersect with the post-feminist insistence on perfectionism in these groups. I would be engaging in a qualitative analysis of posts shared by 3 social media public groups for Sri Lankan women. So I would be doing a very close reading, and I have observed recurrent patterns which were later converted into themes, allowing me to engage in a thematic discourse analysis. This study focuses on the advice and solidarity that is manifested in these groups. So it's very common for these members to confess the difficulties they face in their daily routines, for instance, in childcare, work-home balance, etc. So it's very easy to note the notion of commonality which is expressed through a show of solidarity through common predicament. So you get examples such as, I too face the same predicament, or I have the same issue when leaving my kids, or when I go to work, etc. So belonging through aspiring to a feeling of sameness is established here. These women are often shown to be bound together by a desire to better their standards in life. And there also seem to be a familiarity among them, despite them actually being virtual strangers. So that there are the links to Berlong's theories are evident. And then another notable feature is the discourse of optimism, being happy amidst challenges. So Cabanas and Ilias in Manufacturing Happy Citizens have talked about how sometimes neoliberal citizens are almost pressurized to appear happy and to engage in positive thinking. So actually Gill and Kanai see this as a distinct post-feminist value. So they see that positive thinking discourse along with qualities such as resilience and creativity often surface as a reaction to structural inequalities and flawed economic safeguards. One sees a lot of emphasis on individual or personal performance and individual or personal gain. So we have accounts of women who plan their workday meticulously, who engage in certain activities, and the notion that socio-economic hardships can be overcome by the individual striving of single women, of individual women, because due to their resilience and courage is evident. So these narratives actually relate to the overarching image of the good life as expounded by Berlong. There are many instances in where you can see this, but I thought for the purpose of this presentation, I would take the example of working mothers and childcare as handled in social media groups. So this problem of handling childcare for working mothers is received with a lot of solidarity, warmth and empathy. However, one cannot help noticing that the notion of responsibility is often shifted to women. So there is advice given against enlisting paid childcare, and many relate accounts of having taken the best decision to quit work or enlist the help of their own mothers, work part-time, etc. So again, it is noted that it is individual endeavors and individual success stories and individual accounts of perfectionism that are valued. So actually, Macroby talks about this when she says that it seems that there is a battle to ensure that the new popular feminism which emerges or which holds sway is one which discards the older welfarist and collectivist feminism of the past in favor of an individual striving. So it's often seen that certain structural inequalities and the lack of economic safeguards are often glossed over with individualized accounts of heroism. So people like Michaels and Douglas have dealt with this and how this leads to an unfair idealization or glorification of motherhood, which adds more pressure to women. So Macroby on the same vein talks about how this veneer of a perfect life adds pressure to women worldwide, and so there's clearly a contrast here. So on one hand, we have the effective culture surrounding women's groups, which is grounded on solidarity and empathy. However, when you really consider the narratives, you see that they promote individual striving and personal gain and competition. So one can help asking the question whether this trend is against the welfarist interpretation of second wave feminism with its emphasis on collective action. A reluctance to participate in a language of rights is discernible, and terms such as feminism and politics are very rarely used. So one finds, despite the notions of sameness and intimacy, it actually failing to generate a more profound sense of solidarity in that sense. So this comes to one of the most crucial questions in my study, That is, whether the avoidance of politics and activism is due to certain cultural reasons. So whether this personalization of communal problems leads to a depoliticization of women's issues. So it's again noticeable that where extraordinary feats of women are highlighted, while the structural deficits which create these inequalities these women daily face are toned down, ignored, or glossed over. So it's clear that evaluating women's performances, commitments, and engagements, both collective and individual, on social media is of paramount importance, as this is a medium which has radically changed the world as we know it. So how women engage with communities of other women has vital implications as far as feminist thought and practices are concerned. Thirdly, linking with other research globally on online women's spaces in Sri Lanka will enrich our understanding of women's daily struggles and triumphs in a world dramatically altered by social media. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikuni Ranavira. That's a really fascinating, interesting presentation on structural inequality and women's participations. If any questions from participants?
Can I?
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah,
after Lal, I'll ask. No, after Lal, I'll ask. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. Santon, and thank you, Nikuni, for your very thoughtful and presentation. I have rather two questions for you. One is about this whole notion of Sri Lankan women. The Sri Lankan women who participate in these whatever called digital spaces. What is their class? I mean, what is their class? If as far as feminism is concerned, if it's one class of females gather, then obviously then we are sort of then we are neglecting other females who are of different classes. That's the first one. And also, do these feminine spaces protect them against the realities outside? Is the reality patriarchy? Is it protecting them? And also my last question is, if those groups promote competition among each other, as you say, aren't they giving into consumerism, which I assume is more of a very patriarchal initiative? Those are my three questions.
Thank you, Lal. So I will just take your first question on class. That is actually very interesting. So when you actually go through their profiles, or when you sort of do a study, you find that you cannot find any homogeneous sort of class structure. It's for instance, these groups are actually sometimes, they're fairly large groups consisting of up to 50,000, even 1 lakh members. So it's, I guess language also is a factor. For instance, in a group that is that operates in English, for instance, you might find members of a certain, certain upper middle class. But I was looking at the groups that usually operate in Sinhala, or does so for the most part of the time. So there, I would say there's a variety, like a cross section of virtually everybody with a smartphone, can engage in these communities. So number two, that was about, sorry, just refresh my memory.
These digital spaces, do they actually prevent females from the looming patriarchy outside?
Yeah, no, it's like this, Lal. They do not identify at any point as I guess that is part of the problem I wanted to address. They don't address themselves as a as a group which sort of caters to a feminist sort of ideology. They on the other hand, they sort of they engage with each other on the premises of what do you say, uplifting the standards of women. So those are very sort of vague claims, for instance, making homes, making better homes. You find various mission and mission statements which sort of follow in the same vein. So they don't actually consciously say that they are trying to focus on a language of rights, for instance, as I mentioned in the presentation itself. So I wouldn't say that there's any sort of attempt to protect them from a patriarchal ideology or discourse. Then your third question on consumer
competition among them.
Yeah, so certainly. So when I looked at, again, competition is not sort of displayed in a very prominent, very blatant manner. On the other hand, it's sort of the whole discourse, the whole sort of tone of the language that is used by the members of these groups are very sort of very cordial, and there's a lot of familiarity, as I mentioned in my presentation, a lot of familiarity and a lot of engagement with each other, a lot of empathy. So when you start seeing the competition is actually, that is where this Berlong's theory about the good life comes in, where one for instance an admin of this one of the groups might sort of start posting pictures of how her home looks after a makeover, and how you also can for instance you get a lot of these conversations while people are on lockdown. So women are always supposed to sort of perform and learn new skills. So you're at home, so you should be doing something and bettering the conditions of people. So it does relate to consumerism, because it's about then sort of buying into and sort of consuming a certain kind of life and making others sort of envy you. I mean, not that it's done deliberately, but yeah, there is definitely consumerism and sort of adherence to such ideals. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Nipuni. Over to you, Prof. Stanton.
I'm afraid whether I would disturb Dr. Padmanesan's systematic.
No.
Everything finally. I'm the person who should be blamed if something goes wrong.
But we are well on time.
Nipuni, without asking my theoretical question, since Lal already asked theoretical dimensions, right now, without referring to the names of people, since it is controversial, right now there's a huge discussion on social media about a woman wanted to see the gallows, and one of the leading politicians took her to the Velikara prison. So there are. I was closely observing the discussions in social media in the morning. So how do you analyze this situation theoretically? There are comments supporting her, explaining her situation. She's also a mother with a child, etc. So how do you analyze this situation from in the light of your research finding?
Right. Yeah, I've been seeing these posts, I think, since yesterday, and I don't know whether this woman has been identified, right? No, right? Has not been identified.
But we'll refer to the discussion in the social media.
Okay. Right. No, I was just thinking, well, in the whole sort of discourse of power and violence, which is evidently part of this exchange, I think she just plays the role of a conventional escort in a highly patriarchal sort of drama, right? I mean, I don't think that she had any sort of active engagement with it, except to be led by this this very very macho, very very kind of hyper masculinized this guy who's associated with a lot of violence. So and being, I guess, a beauty queen again, I think that sort of relates to our sort of perceptions on how beauty works, as beauty and beauty queens, how they work as sort of adornments to male power. And so I guess that is why you often see politicians being sort of the beauty queens being sort of accessories to politicians. I believe that there's a trend that past beauty queens are often spouses to great politicians, right? So I guess that is so I wouldn't say that she has any active sort of role to play. I mean, I would say she's just being led, and then of course, as far as I guess that reflects on how people think on social media, and I wouldn't be surprised if she would be very soon a target to much more derision and hatred and criticism than the man himself, Ratnatha himself. I hope that, I mean, I'm sure you have more sort of really studied it to length, but thank you for that question. Thanks.
Please, Mihri.
Yeah, I know we're running out of time, but
no
I
issue.
really need to point out that, I mean, it's a distraction to even bring into the conversation a by the way person in the incident, where obviously the main key player was the minister in question, and it's almost as if suddenly it's become about allegedly this person being in the picture, and we are all being distracted by it. And again, I think it's telling that we want to focus and, you know, just focus away from the main actor here. And it's a woman who has, you know, now being is being highlighted, and it's who is obviously a very much a secondary figure in this whole thing and unproven. It's actually kind of, I think it's just distraction from the main incident. But I think we should not fall into that trap of, you know, always trying to blame the woman. When very clearly the main actor is, and I know it's sorry, Nipuni, because
I believe this is very engaging. I mean, it's very interesting. And I was actually thinking of that name later came to my mind following on Professor Anton's question. And Somali, again, this very, you know, I guess she's an icon on social media, and how she sort of works as an accessory to people like, you know, people in power, like hyper masculinized people like Ranjan Ramanayak. And then you often find that they are sort of engaged, that they are sort of attached to various political icons who are like very male, who are undoubtedly male. And so their function is to usually create distractions, to act as a sort of a vent to, you know, the frustrations of the public.
Yeah, but it's like always women are the bad guys, right? It's very problematic when there's a very clear bad guy in this whole exchange, and the whole conversation is shifting to other avenues. Anyway, sorry, I think I'll stop there.
No, thank you. So, I guess that's a very interesting thing. Yeah, Manik, hi.
Sorry, I also wanted to add to what Mihiri said about the fact that now the limelight has moved to the woman, right? That this is where mainstream politics and the patriarchy intersect. Right? Because the narrative now, like you said, the violent act itself and the main players, not just a minister but several players, are all sort of superseded by the body of the woman. And when we need to put that narrative out there, the public is more likely to talk of a woman and, you know, that kind of control of the body rather than a man's sort of violence. So we, by using the body of the woman, the narrative is completely being changed, the sort of turned away from that narrative of male violence. So many threads within this story. But I think it's a good reflection of how patriarchy is so embedded in how we think about it, how we sort of analyze what's happening socially around us, and how it's used by politicians and other people of power to then change that narrative to the in the direction that they want us to sort of go.
Yeah, you're right, Vanke. So I guess you can see it in the cartoons as well, this hyper-sexualized body of the woman, like very similar to that incident.
With the Hansamali,
so it's almost like a pattern. So, so thank you, Professor Anton, for sort of leading us to, I mean, it certainly has a lot of potential, you know, this area. Thanks.
Thank you. So I hope you all would have enjoyed the presentation. So we had a very lively kind of engaged discussions. That morning that we have different, like diverse topics that we have, the presentations from work-life balance and inequality, urban school, structural implication of inequality, and we had the problem of like emotional maturity and patterns of food consumption, and and different other papers that including therapeutic religiosity and structural implication of inequality and gender. I mean, the final presentation we had like a women's participation and the social media. So it's all about, and finally, we can conclude this session that we have discussed all these presentation, fascinating presentation, very interesting, and also employed a kind of like methodological pluralism and theoretical pluralism and the diverse nature of concepts and theories people have brought to the forum to discuss with. People had a lot of critical questions and the possible suggestions and comments, and also we like to highlight some of the issues like that problem of representation in our society, like trying to social sciences, like kind of we are always trying to decolonize in social sciences because of to avoid the problem of the bracketing or looking for commonality rather than looking at differences and accommodating diversity and differences. So because we need to be very careful of that, because at the end of the day, it's becoming a language game, sort of like a power on others. That's, I mean, putting them in a bracketing or putting them in a basket. So through our own kind of language game, particularly with some creating concepts, or even rather than avoiding the differences and diversity in a society. So that's, I mean, that's actually wanted to highlight the issue of finally the problem of the presentation in social sciences. Thank you so much for the presenters and the participants for listening from morning to now. So thank you so much again for giving this opportunity for the, to me. I really thank the organizing committee and participant and the presenters. A lot of young people they have presented. That's really, really interesting. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.